What are the issues that are most important to you for your district?
Really, it comes down to people being tired of South Carolina being at the bottom of too many lists for too long when compared to other states in our country. For example, when it comes to something as simple as life expectancy, South Carolina ranks 41st. When it comes to childhood poverty, we're 43rd. Violent crime, we're 44th in the nation. When it comes to, school systems, number 46. And these are not numbers we could be proud of. In fact, when we're at the top of the list, it's for things like STD rates. We're number 6 in the nation for STD rates. When it comes to children who die from gun violence, South Carolina is number 5. When it comes to student loan debt as a percentage of income, we're number 4. Like, imagine how hard it is to be a young person to get a foothold on a house or a family or a career when they're just so burdened with such high debt and low income. So these are the things that, as I'm knocking on doors, I'm talking to people say, yeah, we know we're at the bottom. It's been that way for a long time. We need it to change. We need to focus on it now. I truly believe politicians should not step too far out of their area of expertise. That when a legislator whose claim to fame is being a lawyer or being really involved in their church decides to tell the medical doctor, this is what you were allowed to say, this is what you're not allowed to say or do. To me, that is so upside down, it borders on ludicrous. I want to trust the experts to practice their expertise. As a politician, anyone who says they know exactly what the answer is to any problem is lying to you. I'm going to claim my ignorance could fill a canyon, but I am not so proud that I won't seek out the expertise of those who do know, listen to what they have to say, and come to a conclusion with their input.
And how does that relate to abortion issues?
So if there's one thing that I've seen, lawmakers are really bad at legislating this topic. There's 13,000 words in the current legislation governing when abortion is allowed, when abortion isn't allowed, and good luck if you're a doctor trying to make sense of this. I've read it. I actually read these documents for fun. I probably need to find new hobbies, but I'm going to get a little personal here as to kind of why I believe the government should not be involved in those medical decisions. I've got 2 grown kids from my ex-wife. Very happy. They're in their mid-20s. They're doing great work with their professions. In between the 2 of them, there was another pregnancy where in the 5th month, we got word that this fetus had suffered an abnormality called anencephaly. Anencephaly means the brain stem never closed completely, the brain didn't form, and only part of the skull was there. There's no brain, and no brain is coming. There's no treatment for this. There's no caretaking. This is dead on arrival. And it was one of the most gut-punching pieces of news when we were expecting the birth of our first son. And we had the name picked out, we had the room ready, and we get this news. Your mental state is not right. And that was just me, my ex-wife, the poor mother, to know that what was inside her with a perfectly well-formed heartbeat, kicking, thumb sucking, all the standard organs were perfectly fine, but there was no future for this pregnancy. Thank God we had a doctor who guided us through it with compassion, with facts, with options, let us take our time, and we ended up we decided to terminate that pregnancy rather than put my ex-wife through any more risk during that pregnancy. Had that happened today in this environment in South Carolina, the way that law was defined, that was a viable pregnancy because the viability was defined as a heartbeat. Viability was defined as, could that child live on life support afterwards? And yes, technically, you could put a respirator and a heart monitor and everything. It would have kept going, but it was just organs, no brain. This is why I say that government is bad at developing policies around us and should not be involved at all. Now, I also think that we should be involved at every step to help women, to help their partners, to help families, do everything possible that they can have the family and the children that they want. Help provide the medical care, help provide the training, the education, the support. If you're a woman and you found yourself in a difficult situation financially, and that's causing you to lean a certain direction, I believe in funding centers to support those women, and at least give them the option to carry forward if they felt like they didn't have a choice. Right? I believe that wholeheartedly, but I don't believe in interfering once a choice is made. And these choices are made early on. There is nobody in their 8th month of pregnancy going, whoops, changed my mind. No, by the time you've hit that point, you're in my situation where you've learned something, or the mother's life is in danger, and there's no way to give birth safely at that point. Most heart-wrenching decisions, the government should not be in it. There's some low-hanging fruit that shouldn't involve a lot of time or effort that can bring immediate benefit to South Carolina. Let's talk about redistricting. We just went through that cycle for the last year and a half after the 2020 census. But it was shocking to learn that South Carolina is the only state in this country with no laws that govern how redistricting is to be done. Not a single word on the books. We have guidelines that don't mean anything because there's no force of law behind it. They've got guidelines, but if you don't follow it, it doesn't matter. Every other state, for better for worse, has something in the books about redistricting. I truly believe that we need a lot more oversight on the spending that's happening in our state. I'll give one example, and this came up in a budget hearing recently. I just had to shake my head. So let's go back in time, if you will. The year is 2017, and anti-immigration fervor has swept the nation. Walls, or some parts of a wall, are getting built. South Carolina wanted to jump into that mix, and they established a budgetary line item to fund an immigration hotline, a phone number and a website where people can report immigration violations. I don't know what illegal immigration problems we had. Maybe they were sneaking across the border from Georgia or floating up on Myrtle Beach in a raft or something, but apparently the powers that be thought there was a problem, so they allocated $30,000 a year for this hotline. And the next year, another $30,000, and it went on for 5 years. Finally, in this budgetary cycle, somebody in the Senate pointed out, we've not received a single call on this hotline, $150,000 spent, and never rang once. From what I understand, it's still in the budget. They didn't want to get rid of it. And that's the type of oversight we're lacking. So look, I'm all for trying out new things. I've been responsible for millions of dollars of budgets in my career as a CIO. And when you make a request to spend money, you should put into it your expectations and some ROI or some KPIs to measure, did you get what you expected out of it? Sometimes it's a gamble. Sometimes it's a matter of faith, and things don't work out despite all the research and hope and predictions you've done. That's fine. But you have to put in some governance that says if we didn't get a certain result, then maybe we don't spend that money anymore. I manage my own personal budget down to the penny. I don't buy a donut unless I've recorded that receipt. You can ask my wife. She will complain about it. It's the truth. We need to put the same level of oversight and responsibility into state spending. And it can be done just as simply as putting it into the law as you spend it.
What about public education? What would you like to see change there?
The number one thing I would love to see changed is just giving the public educators the respect they're due. I've lived that lifestyle. I was a high school physics teacher. Being a teacher, being an administrator, that's just not a 9-to-5 job. It is a lifestyle, not a living. And so just starting with the basic respect of education, bringing our state out from being 46th in the nation. Hey, let's aim for 40. Let's aim for 35. Let's fund these schools the way they're supposed to be funded. Let's give the teachers the support and dignity on the job that they deserve, and we're going to see those numbers rise. We have a problem in this state where we have not been drawing in the population that we need to fill the economy and the business needs, business and public schools. So I'm going to lump them all together. I read recently that there are 2 positions currently open for every person who is currently unemployed. So even if we take unemployment to 0, there are still thousands of jobs, including teachers, that are unfilled. We need to make the state more attractive for laborers to come here, where they know they can get paid fairly, and that includes even the public education system, that they can raise a family and live a comfortable life. Talking about ratings, South Carolina recently was rated 46th in the nation in terms of labor friendliness. We have to improve these things, and the effects are going to be felt across the board. I double majored in physics and mathematics, and then I went on to graduate school where I got my master's in science and physics and a master's in arts and teaching. What I wanted to be when I grew up was a science teacher. I wanted to be a physics professor. That was my passion. So I headed off and taught for a little while at the high school and college level. But then business called, and I ended up going into technology instead, working in software development and databases. And next thing I know, I'm the CIO of a $4 billion enterprise in the Northeast with warehouses throughout all of the country. I relocated to South Carolina about 10 years ago. I get to work from home now as a software product manager, and now I'm also into the world of politics.
And how did you get involved with politics? When did that start?
That started in the election of 2016. To be honest with you, I had never been very political by nature. I still don't even think of myself as a politician. It's kind of a weird term, not something I had as a career goal. But I had always voted in every election. I always thought it was your citizen duty to do so. But I'll be honest with you, I rarely knew the names below the president or governor on a ballot. And really, when 2016 hit, and I really started to see how our local elected officials were interacting with their constituents and talking just what I would consider very unprofessionally to other politicians or to other constituents, that really opened my eyes a lot. And so I got introduced to the world of South Carolina politics. I joined up with the Greenwood County Democratic Party as a secretary in 2017, which means I knew how to run the website. So I started working on that. And then next thing I know, I was elected as chair of the Greenwood County Democrats in 2020. And now here we are, 2022, and I am making a run for an elected position.